you go through the Bible, right? And when you read what Jesus did, what Jesus said, you come to the realization that he was a trailblazer, right? And I'm not talking about Portland trailblazers from the NBA, but he was a trailblazer. He paved the way, right, with different things, different lifestyle. But what he did was different. What he said was totally different. It challenged the status quo, right? It challenged everything that people knew up to that point. And so you have to believe that, right? That he paved a new way. He was a trailblazer. I want you guys to have that image of Jesus as a pioneer, a trailblazer. And it's not just me saying it, right? We're going to read right here in Hebrews that he was indeed that. But what did he do here when he was, when he walked this earth, when he was commissioned with that task? How was he a trailblazer? And this is open for discussion. You guys can say, respond. You can chime in. How was he a trailblazer? What would you guys say? And then think about the context of the culture at the time, right? Something new, something different. What did Jesus say and do that was different?
Challenge the persons.
Oh, yeah. Yes, exactly. And with this statement, right, take my yoke upon you, he challenged them. What else did he say and do?
I would say he took the words from scripture and he made them more deep, kind of.
Okay. It was profound, right?
Yeah.
He enlightened you. And so look, he wrecked people's perceptions, right? Whether it was social, cultural, religious, he wrecked perceptions. And I'm sure he wrecked your perception, right? When you came to Christ, I'll ask, did he wreck your perception about what religion was, about what relationship with him is and was? Because he certainly wrecked mine. He certainly wrecked mine, and brother, I'm sure he wrecked your perception, right? He dramatically changed the way you saw God. He dramatically altered your relationship with him, right? Because the truth is, he's the way, right? To the Father, he paved that way. And so we have to know that he did change and wreck people's perceptions. And like I said, he did things never done before. He said things never done before. And then he taught things that the mind can't grasp, right? Immediately, the parables and these things he's teaching, when he says them, you immediately can't grasp them. It's hard to understand, right? It was very hard to understand, but the things he said and did. So look, Hebrews 12:2, it says, keeping our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer, right? The trailblazer, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. And look, we can say these things, and to us as believers, as followers, oh yeah, Jesus was this, and he was that, and he was amazing, and he opened our eyes and our minds, right? But the fact of the matter is that it was very polarizing, right? And what do I mean by polarizing? You either hated him or you loved him, right? There was total rejection or total devotion. So some people, of course, were mesmerized. They were mesmerized by what he said. Some people were quite offended, right? Utterly offended by what he said and did. And I'm going to ask you this question, right? When you first heard the message, when they shared with you, whether it was a family member or a friend, were you mesmerized? Were you touched, moved, or did you reject it? And some of us, that first shot, right? It only took that first shot. Someone shared with us. And there was dramatic change, right? And for some of us, it took a little bit longer. It took some time, right? With my parents, my mom, immediately, she heard the message, and she came to Christ. And with my dad, it's probably the same case with you guys, many of you guys. It took time. It took months, a couple years. But look, the message, eventually, it impacted. It had a profound change in the hearts of my parents, and then in your lives as well. And so look, like I said, he's polarizing, right? Hated, loved. And so because he simply posed the question, right? The most important, profound question you're ever gonna face in this life. I am the way. Do you follow me? Do you believe in me? And that's very direct, right? Would you say it's direct? It's a direct question. Because what does it require of us? everything or not, if there's total devotion, then everything. But if there's rejection, then you just walk away, right? The encounters he has with people that you read in the Bible, it was an immediate response, right? He tells them to follow me. And what do we read? You know, we don't read stories of, okay, you know, let me think about it, I'll get back to you 3 to 5 business days, right? It was immediate. It called for an immediate response. And look, and I think those that rejected him or were offended by him, it could be a variety of things or reasons, right? But I think mainly it's fear, no? Think about it. You think it could be fear? If this message is good, right? If we're sharing this message that brings change, profound change, right? And change for the better. Change for the better, right? I think we can all agree on that. He brings change and impact to your life for the better. If we agree to that, then why are we so hesitant with the message? Why do we push away? And I think one of the main reasons is fear, right? Fear of what?
It could be guilt.
Exactly. Guilt. It can be guilt. Sometimes we don't feel worthy, right, of stepping up to that task, to that invitation. It can be guilt. But fear of what you're going to become, right? What you're going to lose. Oh my gosh, so when you're presented with this invitation, what do you think about? You're going to lose what? You're probably going to lose friends, right? You think. And you're going to lose friends because probably what are they going to say or think about you? You're going to lose a certain lifestyle. Now, you know, is our lifestyle so great and so grand and so wonderful that you fear losing that? Really, you think it compares to a life following Christ, right? And on the fruitfulness that brings? But we don't know, right? We're ignorant. Before coming to Christ, we don't know. We don't know. But look, if you guys want to join me, I'm going to read out of Matthew chapter 11. Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30. 20 through 30, and I'll give you guys a minute to bring it up. So Matthew 11, 28 through 30. Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, because I am lowly and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And there's weird terminology here, right? The word yoke. Have you guys heard of the word yoke? And not just, you know, the yoke we eat, right? What's that name of that restaurant or breakfast place? The Broken Yoke?
Yeah.
I love that place. But no, yoke. Think of, you know, and I don't know, I conjure up this image of, I think in Asia, right? It's where they use the oxen. And they're joined by that wooden instrument, that piece, right? And so they're joined, right? These oxen, and the labor and the work is hard. It's very heavy. It's hard, but they're joined so that they help one another, right? So where one oxen goes, the other goes, and what the other does, the other goes and follows, right? So look, it's very deliberate word choice that Jesus is using here. He says, "Take my yoke," and we don't use this word every day. It's not in our everyday vocabulary, but he's using it here for specific reasons, and we're going to look into it. And so look, it's heavy work, right? It's heavy work, but why is Jesus saying this? Why is he saying, take my yoke? In other words, you can substitute that word yoke and you can put burden in there. Burden, right? So Jesus is saying, be joined with me in my burden, because this burden, this work that has to be done, it won't actually make you tired. So, because in that same verse is saying, you will find rest for your souls, right? So it's almost like an oxymoron, sentences and words that shouldn't be together. Because he's saying, this yoke, this burden, it's heavy, it's a heavy toil, but no, it's not like what you think, right? And that's why I'm saying he's wrecking your perception of what you think it means. And he's saying, it's going to give you rest, right? It's going to give you rest. So look, you're joined in this burden with me, it's going to have the opposite effect. You're actually going to feel rested. It's actually light work. you're not gonna feel tired. It's not gonna be a burden. It's not gonna feel heavy. Think about it like this, you know, we're pretty much working adults here. Imagine you're presented with a job opportunity, 125,000. No, you know what? We're in California. That's nothing, right? But 350. We need 350 to make it here on one income, and that's $350,000. And then the manager tells you when you're being interviewed, "Hey, man, you know, the work we do here, it's actually pretty light. It's light work." So you're thinking, 350K, light work? And then at the end of every shift, you actually feel well rested. You get home, you actually have more energy, right? You know, when you're at work, you're like, when I get home, I'm gonna do this and that and that. And then when the time comes, you're tired, right? You don't even want to do any of that. Actually, so yeah, when he says when you get home, you're actually gonna feel well rested. How would you think of that job opportunity, or when it's presented to you? Sign everybody here, right? I'll walk out right. But yeah, sign me up, right? 350. You're gonna feel well rested, and it's light work. You're not gonna have to deal with anybody but me, and I'm humble and gentle and hard, right? Imagine a manager like that. Do you guys have a manager that's humble and gentle and hard? Yeah, no. It's a pipe dream, right? So look, why did Jesus talk about take my yoke? He didn't just say, because he said in some instances, follow me, right? Follow me. Follow me. But right here, he's saying, take my yoke. And why did he choose those words? Because it was deliberate, right? Every word that he used and that he stated, it was deliberate. It was by choice. It was meant to be a poignant, right? It was supposed to cut across. Let's think about it, right? Why did he use that word? And think about the context. I don't know who said earlier, but who was Jesus always having a hard time with? I think it was you, Brother Hunt. He said with the Pharisees. So look, think about it. He says, take my yoke. And I'm sure there's like a little turf war because he's stepping down on their turf, right? With the Pharisees and Sadducees. And so now there's a little turf war, right? There's this new novel guy, this trailblazer, like we said, right? New ideas. He's challenging the status quo. And so these religious leaders don't like it. Because they had a following, right? And those followers gave them sustenance, right? Money, support. So they don't like it, of course. You know that he's challenging them, and he's a threat. He's a threat. But how do you think life was for people that follow the Pharisees and Sadducees?
Spiritually, no?
Okay, well, they would think it was good because they were following these leaders. They thought they were doing a good thing.
I don't know. I feel like the way Jesus speaks about the Pharisees, like they were snakes. You know, they were only interested, like, I'll bless you, but you gotta give me something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Even, like, their theology wasn't bad because Jesus said that follow what they say because it's true.
Oh yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Don't be nothing like them.
And believe it or not, these guys, they were tough, they were harsh, they were strict, very legalistic. We wouldn't want to follow them, but they did have a following. People did follow them, believe it or not. The common people did follow them. And so it makes you wonder why. Why would you follow these guys? Hypocritical.
They were burdened. They were heavy because
Yeah.
let's say that they had more than 700 laws that they had to follow. So it's
6, 7, 8, yeah.
So you follow all these laws, you know, you're still in the wrong.
Yeah.
That's why you came to do change it and be saved by grace. And that's what he's saying. You know, follow me, and you won't be heavy. You won't have all these burdens. You won't have all these different little things. Okay, you're doing this right, but you're not doing this.
Yeah.
And so they always felt guilty. They had to have them feel guilty for them to pay up, for them to go during the time of the offerings, to give those offerings, to give those sacrifices that they
Yes.
give.
Exactly. Look, the reality is we all have an insatiable desire to get closer to God, right? We have that need, whether we recognize it, acknowledge it or not, or we're ignorant of it. We do have this need to get closer to this higher being. So yeah, they're following these guys, but they want to get closer to God. They want to get closer to God. And no matter how difficult life was made under the Pharisees and Sadducees, and it's more so that the Pharisees were more for the common people, the Sadducees were more like almost like they were just in the temple and they were the rich ones. But the Pharisees were the ones with the common folk. And so these guys were like, well, I want to get closer to God. So I guess I have to follow these guys. I guess the way is through them, right? So that's the truth, right? We all have to fill this void. And sometimes we don't do it in the correct means, right? We follow the wrong people. We follow the wrong teachings, right? I grew up, man, in the church, and my first church, the pastor, man, he was just, he was fascinated with new teachings and new things, and he would always bring guest speakers from all over the world. And for some time, I was a kid, but I could remember this guy showing up for a few weeks, and he was talking about that the man that walked the earth was the new God. He said that we were gods walking the earth. That was his. It's like I heard this reverberated through the church for weeks that we're gods walking the earth. And the pastor was just fascinated with these new teachings, and no matter how false they were, correct, they were false, but he believed them because they were new things, right? So look, we have this void, and we're trying to fill this void with things, right? And we don't fill them with the right things sometimes, wrong teaching, wrong mindsets. But look, we know who fills that void. That's Jesus Christ, right? We know who fills that void. So look, look, Jesus is right here. This context, the Pharisees, the teachers. Here's Jesus. So he's saying, take my yoke, right? If you're trying to get closer to God, you're not going to get to him, closer to him, by following the 600-700 laws that the Pharisees impose on you. You're going to establish a relationship with the Lord through me, right? So take my yoke, follow me, is what he's saying. And so look, because he gives meaning and he gives purpose, and he brings your spirit to fullness, right? And I'm sure we can all agree to that. He brings your spirit to fullness. And so look, these followers, they thought they would bring purpose and fullness to their lives by following them, but you don't fill that profound void by following laws and rules and guidelines and regulations, right? A list of things, laundry list of things to do, right? You don't do that. So here comes Jesus to wreck the minds and lives of everyone there, the teachers and the common people. And so I asked you already, right? But has Jesus wrecked your life? Has he changed dramatically the way you think? And your lifestyle? And how you go about your life? Look, some of us need our pride wrecked, huh? Some of us, it's pride. Or sometimes we're self-reliant. Right? We talked a little bit about that. We're self-reliant sometimes. And we need a little bit of Jesus, right, to carry us throughout our day. But you know, for the most part, we got it. We got it. But look, some of us, we think we know it all. And we need that wreck too, right? Our mindset, we think we know it all. And look, Jesus has a knack of doing this, right? He contradicts the way you think, your mindset, your mentality. He changes everything you thought you knew about relationship with the Lord. He changes up everything you thought, it means to follow him and to get closer to God. I'm going to read from Matthew 23:1. Do you want to join me? Matthew 23, verse 1. And then Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. So you must be careful to do everything they tell you. But do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. They tie up heavy, cumbersome loads and put them on other people's shoulders. But they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them. Everything they do is done for people to see. They make their phylacteries white and tassels on their garments long. They love the place of honor at banquets and the most important seats in the synagogues. They love to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces and to be called rabbi by others. And so look, these are Jesus' words, right? If you have your Bible open, those verses will be in red ink because these are his words. He said them. And so look, you read this, right? He's throwing shade at these religious hypocrites, right? So why wouldn't you believe in him? Why wouldn't you follow him? Because the reality is, not everybody wanted to follow him, right? And we talked about it, right? It could be guilt. It could be fear. But not everyone wanted to follow him. So he says these things, and And it's apparent how the teachers live their lives, right? It's apparent how these religious leaders, practice their lives. You couldn't say anything. You were just a common person that followed them, maybe. But they had influence and they had power, especially the Sadducees. So what could you tell them, right? These were the supposed men that were close to God. What could you say to them? You couldn't say anything. So look, he comes here and he says these things, and it blows people's minds, and it changes their perception. Now there's a cognitive dissonance, right? Where like you're challenged and you don't know what to believe, and he's saying these things, but you can see it that they are hypocrites. So like, do I follow Christ now? And so they're conflicted, right? And so you would think, okay, you read this, wow, like this man, this guy just opened our eyes, but it wasn't the case. Not everybody wanted to follow or believe. Look, like I said, I grew up in the church, and I went to many churches, many churches, a variety of them, different Christian denominations, and oh my gosh, there were somewhere, you guys probably experienced it, very legalistic, do things a certain way. Men sat on one side of the church, women sat on the other side. You dressed a certain way. Oh my gosh, I remember one particular church. I wore a hat. I was a young kid. I wore a hat, brand new. I was a Chicago Bulls fan back then. Brand new Chicago Bulls hat. I was excited. Oh my gosh, I still remember the lady at the front door. Man, she pointed, she smacked it on my head. She did, I swear. Yeah, good. But yeah, I swear. So like, come on, you go to a church. What are you supposed to feel when you go to a church? Maybe respectfully, hey, young man, take off your hat or something. But smacking out, my head. But yeah, you're supposed to feel love. You're supposed to feel embraced, right? Welcome. Some of these churches, oh my goodness, I'm telling you, I went to different ones. You didn't feel the presence of God there. Yeah, there's no way, right? Because they're so preoccupied how it looks. They're so preoccupied how the structure of the church and the program, right? There's no room for God there. God's not there. They never consulted him. They never even welcomed him in. God's not there. So, I experienced that. I don't know. Hey, you guys ever experienced that? You guys ever went to a church like that? I'm telling you, I went to many. I grew up in the faith. I experienced them all of them. I have stories. I'll tell you guys, in many sermons about my experiences, but yeah, some of these churches, God's not there. And that's a sad thing, right? What a lost opportunity to reach souls. So Jesus said, follow me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and not everyone immediately followed, right? And for some, it was hard to admit it. Look, why do you think some of them did step forward and follow him? Why do you think some hesitated or didn't take that step?
Status quo.
That's, status quo. Exactly, identity.
I feel like a lot of people also like they heard about Jesus, but since he wasn't like a Pharisee, he was challenging. They're like, I don't know who that guy is, like they're probably challenged, like I don't know who it is.
That's a perfectly viable reason, because we like to think, we read these stories, we see the show The Chosen. I'm sure you guys have seen it. So you immediately put yourself in those shoes. You say, if I was there, man, I would have been his #1 fan, right? Follower. I thought that, man, these guys, Peter, like, come on, why would you say that? Why would you do that? And you immediately think, I would do things differently. I would say things differently. But put yourself in those shoes. Place yourself in that time. Do you think you would follow Jesus if he was if you were there in the crowd that he was speaking to? Or would you think he was a lunatic?
I saw a miracle, I did that.
Some people not even seen a miracle convince them. If some guy in that attire, very humble, he says he's a son of God, what would you say? So it's so easy for us to think, okay, like, if I was there, man, I would have done that. If I was there, man, I would have followed God 100%, above and beyond. But I don't know. I thought, man, like, it's a good thing I wasn't born in that time, because what if I didn't believe? I lost my opportunity right there. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's a profound question, right?
It was, what was it like? Because the Pharisees were challenged by him, so, but there was a Pharisee among them that did like believe, like he started following him. He was like, oh yeah, that's something about him.
And even when you read about the first church in the book of Acts, those first churches, it was composed of some Pharisees. Some Pharisees did convert. So some of them were enlightened. Some of them were, their eyes were open. Once they see that Jesus Christ did what he said he was going to do and he was risen, that for sure did it, right? That for sure did it. So, yeah, look, the reality is not all of them come forward, not all of us come forward. Because sometimes, do you like to admit you were wrong? No one, huh? No one. Or, think about it, they're following the Pharisees. So they do decide to follow this guy's teaching, right? This trailblazer. Well, that means a whole new set of guidelines and rules and a whole new lifestyle. Maybe they want to start over. Or maybe the Bible talks about, some of them were hardened of heart. So they couldn't understand and grasp what Jesus was teaching and talking about. Because their heart was already made up. Their mind was already made up. There was no room for change, right? There was no... Imagine Jesus himself. I mean, it just goes to show Jesus himself in the flesh here on earth, saying these things, bringing the heavens down to earth, and still some people, they still don't believe, they still don't follow. So that's going to be the reality, right? When we go out there and we share with coworkers, with friends, with family members. Jesus went through it. Not everybody's open to it. Not everybody has a heart predisposed, right, to receive. And so we go when the Spirit stirs that heart and he takes you to that person, that's who's ready for the message, right? So look, the ones that didn't have a problem with Jesus, who were the ones that embraced him?
The nobodies.
Look, it wasn't the common people, because some of the common people were following the Pharisees. It was like lower than the common people, lower than lower, right? Lower than low. Outcasts, and people that were rejected. They weren't even looked upon for anything.
Thieves, people that were
Served no purpose. And you know what? The wonderful thing is we can learn a lot of things from them. We can learn a lot from them. Think about the woman that, with her boldness, grabbed Jesus. Be bold like that, right? Like the woman that had firm faith, and when she pleaded to Jesus for her daughter's healing and well-being, Jesus commended her. Because for a moment he scolded her just to test her, and she responded with that firm faith. And he commended her for that. We can learn a lot. And these are the people that embrace him, right? And then insert your story, right? Insert your story, how he saved you, how he redeemed you, what he got you out of. That's why I don't understand when people say, well, I'll go to church, I'll do this and that when I get better, or when I do this, or when I do that, when it's only Jesus that's going to do that change. Right? How many things have we tried to do on our own that we haven't even completed yet? How many things? Look, when we got our home, where we live now, for 3-4 years, I said I was going to put down a little cement slab just in the patio area, a little seating area. It took me 3-4 years to do that. I finally did it this weekend. Man, that was the most anxiety. It's not easy. How you guys ever laid cement? That's what my dad does. He's like, you wait for me. It's not, you gotta wait for me. Don't do it. I was like, nah, I got it. I saw you do it already. So I did it. Bro, I was mixing in the wheelbarrow. I was throwing it in there. I was trying to level it. At the end, I even had Angie here finishing with a little trowel. She was there helping me. I was like, oh my gosh, it was not. But look, 3 to 4 years it took me to do that. How many things have we said we're going to do? We still haven't seen the completion. Right? So it's Jesus that does that change and that makes that difference. So we go to him, right? We go to him. And like we said, there's a lot of things we can learn from these people. And so look, and I'm finishing up here. Jesus, right? A trailblazer of thought and teaching. Countering everything that the Pharisees were teaching, right? And what they were commanding. He was tough, right? Jesus was tough, but he was tough with the Pharisees. And he was gentle with those that were broken and lost. Right? And he knows with what measure he needs to talk to you with. Some of us, he needs to, give a little spanking. Some of us, he just needs to cuddle us, right? Yeah. Yeah, some of us, we need that, man. Yeah. Exactly. He knows what measure he knows us, right? He knows our hearts. And so look, take my yoke upon you. And so look, Jesus is saying, stop trying to find God through the Pharisees, 700 rules and regulations, right? And find God through relationship with me. You find God through relationship with me, Jesus said. And these ideas, these teachings were novel and fresh. And for the first time, relationship with God is accessible, right? Because the Pharisees were acting like gatekeepers, right? They were gatekeepers. And they thought they were holier than thou, and you had to do this and you had to do that. And the law of Moses, they made it 10, 15 times more stricter, imposed it on the people as they themselves didn't even follow it. And so look, finally, here comes Jesus, and while the Pharisees were gatekeeping, right, the kingdom of God, here comes Jesus, and he's opening the gate for everyone to walk through. For you, for me, for everyone, right? And so how do we interpret this? So look, you share this verse with someone. I'm finishing up here. Take my yoke upon you. And you will find rest. You can't say this is going to be a life free of problems, right? Because if you read scripture, if you read your Bible, it talks about trials, right? Fighting of your flesh, right? Carrying your cross daily. So what's the difference, maker here? If taking up his yoke is light, right? It's a light work and it gives you rest. What is he talking about? Why is he telling us, pleading to us, right? Take my yoke upon you. What is he saying?
Your problem, your stress, your worries in his hands.
Yeah. Because look, the reality is, I don't think you came to the faith thinking Christ was going to solve all your issues and answer all your profound questions of life, right? Because the reality is, if you did come with that mindset, you're going to get a quick reality check. Very soon. Your problems don't end, right? You're going to have the same issues, same questions, same problems that this world has. But what's the difference? Christ, right? He brings that peace. And you get to experience that peace. That issue, that problem that your neighbor, that your friend, that your colleague is going through, you're going through the same thing, but it doesn't rob you of your peace. It doesn't cause anxiety. All right, when you give your burdens, your pain, your suffering to Christ, look, taking the yoke upon yourself. Look, traditionally, two oxen, right? They pair up a mature, strong oxen with a younger, weaker one. Who's the stronger, mature one? Christ, right? You take his lead. So you're sharing in the sufferings and troubles and trials with him, so he makes life easier. He makes life easier. And I want you guys to believe that, right? And so look, I want to ask you a question. Because believe it or not, whether you acknowledge it or not, we're all taking up some yoke, right? We're all taking up some yoke. Is it perfectionism? Who's a perfectionist here? Come on. Okay, one person. 2, 3. Me too. I'm 4, right here. Where we can't measure up. Yeah, you're trying to be perfect. Yeah, so why do you think we're always frustrated? Those of us that are perfectionists. We're not perfect beings, right? Look, what yoke are you wearing today? Is it self-reliance, right? Do you rely solely on your own effort? What your hands can produce? Your occupation? We're all carrying some yoke, right? Is it debt? Is it debt? Look, Jesus isn't asking us to work harder, right? He's telling us to take his lead, take my yoke upon you. Let's get up and I want to pray for you guys. So he's not asking us to work harder, right? He's inviting us to a relationship that makes life easier. Take my yoke upon you. So I want to pray Father God, we thank you for this morning, for this day, Lord. Thank you for your perfect word, Lord, that looks deep into our hearts, Lord. Sometimes it contradicts our mindsets. Right there where you are, I just want you to talk to the Lord. Bow your head, close your eyes, and talk to him. Have an intimate moment with him, just a few minutes, and talk to him from your heart. Or you can speak it and say it out loud, but most importantly, talk to him from your heart. And think about everything going on in your life. And sometimes we want to control things, right? We want to control everything at our job. We want to have everything under control in our family. And if it's out of our control, that's when we lose it, and that's when we get anxiety. That's when we step out of place, right? We don't give Jesus room to do what he has to do in our lives. So talk to the Lord from your heart. Because we're all carrying some yoke. We're all taking up some yoke. If it's not Jesus, like he asked us to and invited us to, it's something else. It